Hey everybody, it's Editing Erica here, and Ashley at Bookish Realm and I are going to be hosting a town hall on Monday, June 8th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And what this town hall is, just very briefly, we're going to talk about race. We are going to talk about Booktube and race, and we are going to talk about how we can start a conversation and get that conversation started, hopefully. So if you are interested in participating in the town hall, please DM me on Twitter. My information will be in the description box below. So we are looking for 2 to 3 Black POC booktubers and 2 to 3 white booktubers. So yeah, just send me a DM on Twitter, and I hope to see you there. Hey y'all, it's Erica at The Broken Spine. I've lost count of how many times I've tried to film this video, and it's not going to be your typical bookish video. There will be book recs at the end, and if you decide that you don't want to watch the entire video, I'll put a timestamp in the description box below so you can jump straight to the book recs. Before I get started, I wanted to tell you about a buddy read that is being hosted by Shay over at Books with Shay, and it starts June 5th and goes through June 19th. And if you can tell me what June 19th is, I will link her video in the description box below. So, onto the video. I went back and forth as to whether or not to do a response video on the death of George Floyd and the current protests and the riots that are happening around the country. I said no because I didn't think that doing a video like this would matter. I didn't think it would make a difference. But I had a conversation with my cousin, and after seeing some comments on social media, I decided to go ahead and do this video. It frustrates me to no end when someone tells me to educate them about something. It is not my job, and it is not the job of any person of color to educate you. But since there are some of you out there that are unable, or more aptly put, unwilling to do a simple Google search or go to the library or go to a bookstore, I'm going to give you a bit of a primer. It may make you uncomfortable. It's okay. This is what it's all about right now. It's about being uncomfortable, and sometimes when you are uncomfortable, though, that's when change happens. So if it makes you uncomfortable, that's good. Get out, get up, make a change. Be a voice for change. Let's get started. Part of the conversation that I had with my cousin was about the talk, as it's referred to in the Black community. He had to have this talk with his 10-year-old son about what it means to be a Black man in America and how he needs to conduct himself if he comes into contact with the police. The talk is a real conversation that Black families have with their especially their Black boys. I mean, it's really fucked up, but it's a conversation that we have to have. We shouldn't have to have it, but we have to. We've all seen the news, and we know what's been going on. We know what happened to George Floyd. It is not an isolated incident, and it will not be the last until society's perception of Black people changes and the perception that Black lives are not expendable changes. Until that happens, Black bodies will continue to be disposed of violently. It's just the facts. Please don't come at me with it happens to every race, it happens to every ethnicity, and that all lives matter. It happens to Black bodies at a disproportionate rate. According to Mapping Violence, Mapping police violence. 1,100 people were killed by police in 2019. Of those killed, 24% of them were black. That's a significant amount of people, a significant number of black people, considering that black people only make up 13% of the population. Black people are 3 times more likely to be killed at the hands of police than white people, and are almost always unarmed. Why is this? It's quite simple. It's very simple. Black lives are less valued. We are devalued in America. And as I said a minute ago, black lives are expendable. And because we're expendable, especially our black men, we have to have the talk with our black boys in hopes that they'll live another day. The reality is, it's dangerous to be a black person in America. I know some of you watching don't see it. I know some of you don't understand it, and I know some of you just simply deny it. But until we get on the same page, the plight of a black man, the black woman, the black family, this vicious cycle will continue. This vicious cycle of violence against black bodies will continue. I still want you to come on what I hope to be a quick journey. As a black woman in America, I've been fortunate. I haven't had a lot of experience with overt racism. However, I've had my share of microaggressions. I can probably say that I have at least one microaggression a day. At least one. I have been called a nigger. I have been called a coon. I have been called a monkey. And I had to learn the hard way that the color of my skin was a problem. And it's not a problem for me, because it's the skin that I was born in, and I am perfectly okay with it. But it is a problem for white America. I also had to learn that white America does not give a damn about me. They don't give a damn about black people. And yes, I am generalizing, so don't come to me and say that, oh, all white people don't feel this way. I get that, and I appreciate that. However, the reality for a black person in America is that white America does not care. There's a poet and slave, Phyllis Wheatley. She wrote a poem called On Being Brought from Africa, and she was the first black poet published in 1773. And she writes in this poem, "Some view our sable race with scornful eye. Their color is a diabolic dye." Just think about that for a minute. If you were a black person and you were looked at on a daily basis, with contempt and that I wish you didn't exist, you're looked at as, just because you are black, you are looked at like you are a monster. Like you don't deserve to breathe the same air that I breathe, to inhabit the same space that I inhabit. Just imagine that for a moment. That being your life daily. Just imagine it. Imagine being referred to as a degraded and degenerate race and being called a separate species, because that's what happened in 1846 when Louis Agassiz, I think that's how you pronounce his name, was on a tour of Philadelphia, and that rhetoric helped pro-slavery white America continue slavery. Imagine being told that the Negro is not equal to the white man, that slavery subordination to the superior race is his natural and normal condition. Because that's what Alexander Stephens said in his cornerstone speech of 1861. Imagine. Just take a second and imagine this. This is your life. Why am I bringing up slavery? I mean, it happened so long ago. But really, it wasn't really that long ago. We've come so far. Have we? I don't think we have. I don't think we've come as far as we like to think we've come, or to pretend that we've come. I bring this up because although the physical act of slavery has been abolished, and people have come to realize that this rhetoric is false, the tenets of slavery are deeply rooted in American fiber, and especially the way in which Black people are policed. Black people have we know this. Black people have a tenuous relationship at best with police, and that violent relationship began way back in 1700 with the slave patrols. The slave patrols were made up of white men that were empowered to enforce the laws related to slavery. They were empowered to crush uprisings. They were empowered to punish slaves, and oftentimes violently. Now, let's fast forward to Jim Crow. Jim Crow is not just a 1960s thing. Jim Crow actually began way back in 1877. Violent policing of Blacks by the police who felt no obligation to treat them fairly or with any respect. It didn't stop. In fact, it got worse. With Jim Crow, the legal system was stacked against Black people. Confederate soldiers served as the police, and they also served as judges. Should a Black person be convicted of a crime, they were given longer and harsher sentences than their white counterparts who committed the same crime. We see that today. We see all of this today. So yes, slavery is so very deeply rooted in the American fiber, and this is what we have to get past it. Yes, we do. But how do we do that? We have not had a meaningful conversation about race and race relations in America. Where did it start? How did it start? Why did it start? So before we can make any meaningful change, we need to have that conversation. But there are also some other things that we need to do before we can have that conversation. So, I am not going to get into all of that, because I am not going to sit here and educate you 100%. If you're watching this video, you have internet access. Get on there, Google is your friend. or whatever search engine that you use is your friend. So, Black people have been fighting for their lives since the first Black person set foot in this country in 1619. For 400 years, Black people have been brutalized. For 400 years, the lives of Black people have been devalued. For 400 years, Black people have been looked at as a diabolical die, as not being equal, as being the lesser race, as being a separate species. And this is why we protest. This is why we fight, so we don't have the George Floyds, the Ahmaud Arbery's, the Breonna Taylors, the Christian Coopers, the Sandra Blands, the Eric Gardners, the Tamir Rices, the Philando Castillos, the Trayvon Martins. The list goes on and on. How many of us have to die before a change is made? When will we be able to stop having the talk with our young Black men? And I'm tired, y'all. Black people are tired. And I hope white people, I hope you're tired too. It's time beyond time to move from this vicious cycle. It is time to educate yourselves. White people, you are the greatest benefactor of the American dream. And we need you to make a change. Without it, long-lasting and meaningful change cannot and will not happen. You have to understand where your privilege comes from. I mean, if you don't already. I mean, some people already get that they are. You also need to understand the causes and effects of systemic racism and acknowledge your individual biases and prejudices that allow systemic racism to continue. And when the topic of race and race relations come up, even though it makes you uncomfortable, it's okay. Don't shy away from it. Don't shy away from the conversation. Acknowledge and validate the pain that's being felt by the Black community. Time and time again, I have heard a white person say, "Why can't you just get over it?" I would love nothing more than to just get over it. But Black people can't just get over it. Our Blackness is thrown at us every single day. Our Blackness automatically makes us a suspect. Our Blackness is a presumption of guilt. Our Blackness is viewed as something to be feared. Our Blackness allows us to be viewed as less than. We can't just get over it because America does not view us as equals. And we live it every day. So I'm done. I hope that if you really want to help be a voice of change, that you want to help affect change, that you will further educate yourself on the Black experience and the Black struggle. So if you stuck around, thank you. I truly appreciate it. Feel free to unsubscribe if you want to. Feel free to subscribe if you want to.